Without strategic foresight, Israel risks falling behind and relying on external support. Oh! We all know what this article is talking about when it refers to external support. It's talking about the United States. And so, as I've said, Israel is dependent on America's military umbrella, America's security umbrella. America's security umbrella. And so what's going to happen if it loses that American bulwark, that American security umbrella? Israel is done. This is why do you think Israel focuses so much on these conservative parties in Europe? Have you ever stopped to think about this for a moment? Why is it that if you look at all of these conservative parties, these right-wing parties in the Western world, AfD, Freedom Party, whatever, you will always see Israel having an interest in these parties? Have you ever wondered about that? It's because the biggest fear that Israel has is losing the support of the white man. I sound like an African there. Losing the support of the white man. It's the truth, though. It really is the truth, because Israel's most powerful allies are who? The United States and the European Union. And what's the dominating demographic of both of these powerhouses of geopolitical leverage? White. That's the main demographic in both the United States and the European Union. So if the Israelis lose the whites, they lose their two most powerful allies, their two most necessary allies. They lose their security. So if the white man decides we've had enough of Israel, we don't want our countries to defend Israel, Israel is done. So when you have rising right-wing sentiment, when you have rising right-wing nationalist feeling in both the United States and Europe, Israel is concerned, because right-wing politics has a history of anti-Semitism. And so what Israel doesn't want is for these right-wing parties to go to the side of anti-Semitism. They're worried that these nationalist movements in the West will shift towards anti-Semitism, because right-wing politics has a history of this. Let's not pretend that this is not the case. And so Israel has an interest in containing these feelings, in containing these nationalist movements. And as long as it can contain those nationalist movements so as to hinder them or impede them from going to the side of anti-Semitism, then Israel is not worried about the white man turning on it, turning against Israel. But if these nationalist movements go to the side of anti-Semitism, then Israel is done, because that would mean Israel, not just anti-Semitism, but also just being anti-Israel, which can also be anti-Semitic, don't get me wrong. But if that happens, Israel loses the white man. Israel loses Japheth. Israel loses its two biggest allies, the United States and the European Union. And if that happens, Israel is done. It's done. Israel is done. That's it. Israel ist tot, to use the German language. Israel would lose its external support, to use a term from this article. And as the article points out, Israel is too dependent on its external support. As the article has observed, Turkey has better priorities. Turkey has been working on forming aircraft, while Israel is focusing on what? Arming its tanks. So Turkey's and Israel's priorities are very different, very different. And this is something that that needs to change if Israel wants to survive. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's go. Let's see here. How long have I been streaming for? 4 hours. Hot damn. Yeah, and we see anti-Israel sentiment increasing tremendously. And the Israelis know this. And so they see what? They see the AfD, and they see the leader, one of the leaders of the AfD, Bjorn Höcke, expressing hatred to Holocaust memorials, expressing his hatred of Holocaust memorials. You don't think Israel sees that? You don't think Israel notices this? You don't think Israel sees the writing on the wall? Why do you think you have Zionists in all these parties? Bjorn Holke is not a Zionist, but you have Zionists in the AFD. Why? Because Israel has an interest in making sure that nationalist sentiments in the Western world do not go down the road of anti-Semitism. Because if they do, that would mean Israel losing the white man. And if Israel loses the white man, Israel loses its protection. It loses that support from the West. Good night, Rusty. And so if white people, more importantly than Europeans, are the white people of America for Israel, because the whites are the majority of Americans, and America is Israel's biggest defender. So if the white man of America, if the white Americans come out and say, we're sick and tired of Israel, Israel is done. That's it. Why do you think Israel has an interest in maintaining Zionist sentiment within American Protestant churches? Why do you think so? Believe me, they do. They have their operatives that they send to these churches. You can literally see it in CUFI. Go look up CUFI, Christians United for Israel. Go look it up. You will always see Israelis in these events. Why? Because Israel has an interest in guaranteeing and ensuring that American Christians are pro-Israel. Because if American Christians stop being pro-Israel, then that means that the rest of the whites in America are not really that enthusiastic about Israel for the most part. Because if the evangelicals stop being supportive of Israel, if they start being indifferent towards Israel, that would be a sign, like the canary in the coal mine. That would be a sign of tremendous diminishment for the pro-Israel movement within the United States. You have Democrats who are pro-Israel, but they're sort of a minority. Democrats tend to be more critical of Israel than Republicans. But it's changing for the Republicans as well. You're seeing more Republicans becoming critical of Israel. So the Israelis, I think, are very worried. They're worried. You see the support for Israel in America declining tremendously. So if Israel loses the support of white America, Israel is done, because that would mean the majority of Americans not being pro-Israel. And if the majority of Americans stop being pro-Israel, that would mean a shift in America's foreign policy towards Israel. And it wouldn't be for the betterment of Israel. It would be for the worst, because America would just turn its back on Israel and say, we don't care about Israel anymore. We're done. Goodbye. And then here comes Turkey. And Turkey is much more prized geopolitically, geostrategically than Israel is, because of that thing called the Dardanelles. Maybe Israelis should not be spitting in and knocking down Christians. I agree. Absolutely. Like I've said, Israel is making its own noose. The thing is this: the Israelis who really care about getting the support of Christians are not really the ones who are spitting on Christians. Let's be real here. The Israelis who go to the CUFI meetings, or who are really anxious about maintaining Christian support for Israel, they're not the ones spitting on Christians. They're not. They're the ones who will say, "Hey, you're Christian. We're friends. Let's go out and have some dinner." Like that's what you're dealing with. The problem is that you have the fanatics in Israel who don't give a damn about the support of America. They don't give a damn about gaining support from or maintaining support from American Protestants. They don't give a damn, because they think as long as we have the rabbis praying for us, God will protect us. We don't need America. We don't need any external support, because we have God on our side, because we are God's chosen people. In other words, the ones who are spitting on Christians are the ones who have a superiority complex. We are the ones chosen by God. We are the chosen, so we can do whatever the hell it is that we want. The Israelis who are pro-Christian, or who are not necessarily pro-Christian, but they are very fixated on maintaining good Jewish-Christian relations, they don't really like the ones who are doing the spitting. They don't like them. In fact, you can read up on, let's say, an attack on a church. So for example, years ago, some fanatics burned down a church. It was the Church of the Loaves and the Fish You can look this up. I think it's called the Church of the Loaves and the Fishes. It's a church that is built on the spot where Christ did the miracle of multiplying the loaves and the fishes. And that has been a huge tourist attraction for years. I'm not sure if that's the case now, but for years that was a huge tourist attraction. And they scorched it. They didn't completely destroy it, but they really, really severely damaged it. And it was two Jewish fanatics who did that. And so what happened was, immediately the Israeli government got in on it. They said, we're going to investigate it. We're going to find out who did this. We're going to find out who the culprits were. And this is not a Protestant church. This is a Eastern Orthodox / Catholic church. I think it's Eastern Orthodox, if I'm not mistaken. It's a church that's either Roman Catholic or Eastern Orthodox, not a Protestant church. And so the Israeli government said, we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to find out who did this. And they did. And they used forensic data. They did the whole forensic investigation. They found out who did this, and they arrested them. My point is that you have the Israelis who don't really care for Christianity, but they do care about maintaining relations with the West. And so they're not going to be anti-Christian. They're not going to go around spitting on Christians nor supporting the spitting on Christians. The problem is you have the fanatics in Israel who are growing by heaps and bounds. And you're right that Israel should police its own better. But the thing is that they're gaining influence to a point where they are ruining relations between Israel and the Christian world. They're not making Israel look good. And the thing is that as these numbers grow, as the numbers of these fanatics grow, so will their political prowess. So will their political power. You already have fanatical parties in the Israeli Knesset. You have the Jewish Power Party. Imagine that, right? Jewish Power. Imagine White Power Party. You have the Jewish Power Party, and then you also have the Religious Zionism Party. These guys are fanatics. And a lot of Israelis don't like them because they're the types of people who say, we don't care about the Israeli hostages. Let's just bomb the shit out of Gaza until we can just make it Jewish. That's what these people want. They're growing in numbers. So it's like this. It's like this. You look at Syria, right? Syria had Bashar al-Assad. Now, was Bashar al-Assad this saint? No one's really a saint. Let's be real here. But Bashar al-Assad was workable. He was workable. You could work with him. And even the Israelis admitted this. Even the Israelis said that, yeah, Bashar al-Assad was not as bad as what Turkey is right now. And even the Israelis admitted that, yes, Iran was using Syria as a base against Israel, but still the Syrian government under Assad was limiting the Iranians. Even the Israelis admitted this if you read the report that came out of the Najal Commission. They got rid of him. So they got rid of the guy who was workable. And now what you have is a bunch of gremlins, Islamic gremlins, and you have Turkey. So it's just like, really, Israel has dug its own ditch, as I said in my last video. You have the Israelis who are like Assad. Are they good? No man is really good. But they're workable. That's the point. You can work with Netanyahu. But you cannot really reason with a fanatic, a demon-possessed fanatic who hates Christ and spits on you because you believe in Christ as the Jewish Messiah. Do you see what I'm saying here? You got to see, okay, which one is better than the other. So you have Israelis who are workable, you have Israelis who are not workable. The problem is that the Israelis who are not workable are starting to grow it by heaps and bounds, and pretty soon they're going to outpopulate the ones who are reasonable and workable. That's the problem. That is the issue. And so you're right. Those people don't give a damn about maintaining relations with the Christians because they're not the smart ones. They're the crazy, stupid ones who are chuckleheaded and demon-possessed. You know, demonic possession and influence doesn't make you very smart. Makes you pretty dumb. It makes you into a barbarian. But that's the thing. They don't care because they believe that the rabbis are praying for us, so we're fine. We're A-okay. Or they believe Mashiach is coming anyway. The Messiah is going to come anyway, so we're A-okay. We don't need America. And if these forces, if that fanatical force starts to eclipse the moderates within Israel, then they will drive Israel into becoming a rogue state. That's the problem, you see.